Hello. I edited, which I pretty much haven't done before. I edited one of my journals that I reconsidered something I had shared. And so I thought maybe I'd do a journal on that. In my running notes document that I mentioned and read from in the last video, the one I edited, I read a section that I keep where my heart is working through various teachers. And I won't always know right off when I see or listen to someone if that one has anything of use for me. And I realized, so what I have is a list of those that I don't trust or don't see anything in, and those that I'm not sure of. And I share all the time those that I enjoy partaking of, such as, Muji and Tole and Adya and all the rest. Okay. Oh, and Anelia Benz. I'm enjoying what she has to offer as well. So she's on that list. Now, why did I edit that out? If everyone was in their higher consciousness, we could share these things back and forth, and it wouldn't be an issue because everyone would be standing under their own vine and fig tree, as it were. Everyone would be standing in their own strength, and they wouldn't rely overmuch on what anyone else had to say. Once upon a time, and perhaps it's when we're in mind, it's so important to separate things out in lists and to analyze and to make decisions about, is this good for me, is this bad for me? I remember at a certain point there was a shift, and all of a sudden I felt very free to partake of anything. Things that I hadn't wanted to have anything to do with before. I was concerned that there was impurity there, or they might infect or infest me negatively in some way, and that kind of thing. All of a sudden one day I looked and I realized that was no more concern of mine. It just vanished. And as I looked at that to see what was there, maybe understand it a little better, I saw that there was no fear, and that at least some of that energy, at least in my world, had been based on a certain sense of fear that I could be harmed in some way. And the new realization was that that's not possible. I guess when we stand in our divinity, which we all have, you really can't be hurt. Of course the human can be hurt, but you're not the human. Okay? Things in 3D come and go, but you're not that. And as we step into higher consciousness, we hold everything lightly. We don't grasp things to ourselves and hold on for dear life and like it'll be the end of the world if we lose this, that, or the other, including the body. It's just not. You go on, everything in 3D does that. It comes and it goes. Papa G has a lovely video on death, and he says you were not born, and as long as you have this belief that you were born, you're not free. Now, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I found it on Vimeo, I think, or Daily Motion, I forget, but you can Google Papa G, and maybe I'll get around to putting a link with this. But there's a certain sort of invincibility that we step into, perhaps. I mean, this isn't Superman stuff, and this isn't going out and tackling things in 3D. Everything I say, you need to be in heart to hear it. Mind is incapable of interpreting properly what's being said. Mind can't occupy this space. It's mind that has all the fears, all the concerns, all of that, all of the jealousies, all of the judgment. I have found that all of those things to be properties of mind. And furthermore, mind is the territory laid out, staked, and claimed by the dark force. And so I just leave it alone. We have no need for it. Once our DNA is fully restored, once our being is fully restructured, as appears to be going on now, I'll take a look at it again. And see, that's what happens with the thing about teachers or those that have something to offer. There are times when someone will send me a link, or I'll just see a video in the related videos section where it's got the thumbnail showing, and I'll just know that's no energy I want to partake of. I don't even want to push play. I'm not interested. There's nothing whatsoever for me there. It's just that negative. Well, that's easy enough to see, and I have learned to trust heart in that. There's just no blessing or benefit there for me. Now, an interesting thing is you might find in others that the season and cycle for a certain teacher will come and go. There might be someone that does absolutely nothing for you right now, but then you're changing. And it might require a change or two in you before you're ready for a certain message. Or it might be that with a change or two in you, you know, is it that you transcend a certain message? I don't know that it's that, but you no longer need it. Maybe what's happened is you have internalized a certain message sufficiently and you just move on. And that isn't to say you won't be drawn to something of that teacher's later down the road. So there's a real flexibility with this. And I didn't want to put out a list that's always in flux and have people, there are many that are still in mind, say, oh, she said this one's good and this one's bad and this one's, you know. You need to make those decisions for yourself based on your own heart, what your heart guides you to. And it might not be a bad idea, you know, to have 3 little lists in your running document of those I trust, those I don't trust, and those I'm not sure of, and just see what the movement is. See how things flow for you. I think the mind wants things to be perfect. It wants to be able to analyze things, and it wants to see if there's one flaw. There are so many people that if they see one flaw in a teacher, that wipes out all that teacher's utility, all their goodness, all their everything. That just means, oh, they're not realized, they're not good enough for me, and that person goes on. Oh my God, how brittle this is. How brittle. And what are we projecting there? What are we doing, I want to say? You know, are we so perfect? This is the mind's judgment and the mind's way of judging. Now, this is just, I could be wrong, friends, and I could be making a total fool or an ass of myself by what I'm saying here. We take a chance on that every time we open our mouth, especially as we learn about projection. and how we project on others what is really our stuff. And so there's a certain cosmic humor in the background at all times, I think. Sometimes I feel like I can hear the laughter, and sometimes it's belly laughter. And no doubt, excuse me, we in our higher selves often participate in that. So let's take ourselves lightly as well. But my call is to heart, and as we come into heart, there's less and less judgment until there is none, just none. And so the mind is going to ask, well, if you say you have no judgment, then what about these lists of yours, those I don't trust and those I'm not sure of? That's excuse me, that's different. There's no utility in these for me. What I'm saying is I don't sense a usefulness there. I wish all beings well. And that includes the darkest of the dark. I mean, if you ponder it and step up and out of the fear, in other words, be in heart, and ponder it, the dark ones waking up might be the very best and fastest way to clean this mess up. Don't we want them to wake up as well? In the end, who are they harming? Have we not learned that what goes around comes around? And so all of this activity to hold other beings down and to do harm and to stay on the top of the heap, they're creating their 3D future, in which they'll be on the receiving end of what they have sent out. And so they're creating quite a mess. I mean, and there is a place of compassion in heart where you see that and you actually hurt for them. Now, this isn't slurpy, syrupy sympathy. I think that's mind's attempt to understand and participate in compassion. But you just don't want to see, it's not just the harm that a being is doing to those it's manipulating, but ultimately it's doing nothing but harming itself and creating its own future and keeping itself down. There won't be evolution past 3D until that stuff is dealt with. And so, you know, you're watching someone dig a deeper and deeper hole for themselves. So yeah, I pray for them to wake up as well. What I'd love to see most of all, though, is for the hypnosis to fall away, for all of the light beings suddenly to not be hypnotized, drugged, and asleep anymore, and to suddenly have the scales fall off of our eyes and look around, because you suddenly see and things make sense in a whole different way. Things don't mean what they used to mean anymore. And I guess there's not really any way to comprehend that outside of having the experience yourself. But it's available to everyone. It's a matter of continuous, constant focusing in heart, just keeping a part of your awareness stationed in the center of your chest. And that's kind of simple. I mean, anyone can do it. It goes along with your intent, of course. You've got a whole intent inside of yourself that's reaching for light and transcendence and freedom and release and relief, you know, from suffering. And maybe I'll close with that. Suffering is a choice that we make. I know that sounds nuts. I was angry one time. I spent a lot of years in depression and didn't know it. it got bad enough at a certain time. I think in the midst of my daughter's counseling, it was diagnosed for me. Anyway, I wound up in counseling myself and being medicated for it for a number of years. And it was dark and it was difficult and life was hard and all of that. And I was living fully in mind and didn't know it. I saw a book at a bookstore and I got angry. I saw the title. It was just on the shelf there. And I think it said something like, "You don't have to suffer." Something along those lines. And I remember how I felt about that. It made me mad. I had a life that was very painful. There was a lot of suffering in it. And I just didn't like seeing that. I didn't see how it could possibly or even potentially be a choice. I bought the book. I don't remember anymore how much good it did me. I did manage to read at least some of it. I don't remember if I finished it. But from where I sit or stand today, I really do see that suffering is a choice. And if that's the case, then we can choose not to suffer. And if you're in the mind, this will never make sense, so leave it alone, you know. But if you enter into heart, I make a choice, I guess. I mean, it's not a conscious choice, but as I look at everything, gratitude is right there, joy is right there. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can take a negative sort of thing, and I can still find gratitude and joy. It exists. And if it exists, we can contact it. I don't know if this is a gift that can be given. I know I certainly wasn't receptive to it. We want not to suffer anymore. We want the pain to end. I mean, I was even on the phone receiving counseling so that I wouldn't suicide at one time. We don't see a way out. And it seems never ending. I don't know what I can say to that, because as long as we stay in that, there is no way out. And that is the level of mind. And mind involves the emotions, of course. But a thing is thought before the rest of it comes along. There is the thought. Okay, so being in heart. Why is there no suffering? I'm often enough present in the emptiness, in the no mind, so I cannot say it's because there's this grand master understanding or the master plan is clear and you see how all the pieces fit together. Come on, you guys know me. You know that's not the case. And you see, that's the mind's way of thinking. Well, if I only understood and it would make sense and then it wouldn't hurt. I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe there's a being that's going to solve it all through the mind. I don't know. All we can know is what is our path. And my path is through heart. And since I've been walking this path, suffering has faded and faded and faded until it's practically not there. Now, this is someone who takes morphine throughout the day and another kind, you know, there's 2 strong pain meds that I take because the body has a lot of pain. So there are times when I'll get involved in what I'm doing and I'll forget, oh, it was time to take a pill, and the pain will remind me. And it will be strong enough that for a period of maybe an hour or so, I'll be functionally pretty useless. I won't be able to think or concentrate or do email or anything like that. And so what I've learned to do is I take the pills, and I put on something to listen to, a good, right these days, a Papa G or an Anelia or something, something good to listen to take the focus off the body. And I'll dive into that and I'll enjoy that for a time. And at the end of it, when I sort of come back to myself, the body's usually in better shape and I can go on without attention being focused on it. Now, is that suffering? I don't think so. The body has pain. Yes, it does. It's most uncomfortable to a level that it impacts my ability to function. Is it suffering? It's not. I don't choose to see it that way. And so I don't experience it that way. Now, I can't say, like I said, that I have a lot of understanding here. But there's an honesty and a truthfulness that's flowing through to you that maybe you can follow that back into your own heart and get your own guidance to kick in and show you, because I know that people hurt tremendously. And as light beings, that's a very important part of our walk. I had a memory recently where I went back to before all incarnating. Was it real? Who can say? But here's what I experienced. I looked down at the humans, at the beings. Was it this earth? No way of knowing. Maybe, maybe not. But the beings I was looking at were in 3 or 4D. They were in a realm where suffering was possible. And the compassion that's just a part of that, higher consciousness, higher dimensions, that's too linear anyway, responded. The compassion within responded and wanted to reach out. But I realized I didn't know how to help because I didn't understand. From my perspective, I didn't get it. I couldn't see through those eyes. There was no way to understand that pain and suffering and those terrible choices that were being made and so on. And if you don't understand, then you can't help. You can't serve there. What can you offer? It wasn't practical. And so as light beings, we incarnate into this, that, and the other so that we can walk a mile in those moccasins. And sometimes when we're in the midst of great pain and suffering, maybe we can look at it for that. There's no doubt that the suffering that you do now will be useful in your future, will be called on, will give you a consonance and a connection to a heart that you one day want so much to serve, want so much to reach out to and be useful for. And you'll have that point of understanding inside of yourself that makes all the difference, that enables the fullness of love, a fullness of love to flow through. And so, I'm sure on some cosmic level it all makes sense. I don't have access to that consciously. I'm not aware of that. I'm not coming from there. So the beauty of this is that you don't have to have all the pieces fitting together nicely. You don't have to have that level of understanding before the suffering goes away. It can go away now. It's like Papa G says, just stop. Just stop. You've spent your whole life thinking. You've spent how many lives thinking? You've looked and you've searched and you've sought. Now just stop. Just stop and just be. In one instant, it can come together for you. What instant will that be? Must you wait? What is time? If time is all present, all now, then you are already ascended. Why not tune into that? Why not take advantage of it? That's you. That's just as much you as this is. All those other lives, that's just as much you as this is. Why accept the limitation? Now stay out of the head. The head will do you no good at all here. Just stay in the heart. You have a higher mind that functions through the heart and that abides there. And it's wisdom. And it has knowledge to give as well. Knowledge is light. Light is information. It's not everything. It's not even the ultimate. I like the way Anelia brings it together. She says, you know, light and dark are the duality. And when you put them together, they don't exist as separate things anymore. So it's not just that we're going into the light. When we go into the light, that's enlightenment. But that's not the ultimate. Is there an ultimate? Maybe. But what is beyond light, or the experience of light and dark, is oneness. And it's solid. It doesn't have this individual thing in it separated out called light, or this individual thing in it that's separated out called dark, or yin-yang, or whatever. It's a wholeness, it's a completeness, it's solid. Okay, I've really gone out there, haven't I? Whee! I guess I'll pull myself back in enough to click the finish video button. Okay, see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.